David Johnston.
Deputy Speaker, and it's a pleasure to follow the right honourable gentleman always. I welcome this bill today and I congratulate the government on it. I think it's a good bill and I think credit should go to the ministerial team for that. Credit, though, should also go to some of my backbench colleagues who I think have made really important contributions this year, and there are plenty of those, but in particular the members for Tunbridge and Morling, Chingford and Woodford Green and the Isle of Wight, who I think their contributions have helped us to get to a better bill. This comes a couple of weeks after the National Security and Investment Bill, which I also spoke in support of, and as with that one, I think it's right that we devise a new regime for the risks that we think we face at this time. And as with that, I don't think we should be too prescriptive. So we know that our focus right now is Huawei in 2020, but we have to leave this open to new threats we might encounter, and therefore I'm very comfortable with them not being on the face of the bill. And I very much support the powers that Ofcom will be given to ensure that providers adhere to the new security enforcement that we want them to take. I very much support the government bringing forward the deadline for buying new equipment from Huawei to September and the removal of all the equipment by 2027. Of course, I would like it to be earlier, and I maintain that there is a distinction between what the providers want to do and what is genuinely impossible for them to do. But I do accept the government's judgment there. And what I do accept from the providers is that, like any set of businesses making an investment decision, they require certainty. They need to know that that is the year it is happening and we need to stick to that. And what I also accept, which perhaps the Minister can comment on, is that they have an understandable concern that the decisions made by local authorities about masks and so on may further delay the rollout, and perhaps we can support them in those decisions. As this debate went on in 2020, I found some of the contributions, not necessarily from this House but outside it, frustrating. And one of them in particular was the suggestion that there are no risk-free vendors. And I accept that. But I think when we are dealing with companies like Nokia and Ericsson, we know we are dealing with fundamentally different entities to one like Huawei. And we are not concerned with Nokia and Ericsson that they will collaborate with intelligence agencies on spurious national security grounds. We are not concerned, as Vodafone found a decade ago, that there might be backdoor vulnerabilities in the equipment, which even when they're assured they're being taken out, they find actually have not been taken out. And I think it's fair to say we are not concerned about malicious cyber attacks being directed at us from the governments of Finland and Sweden. So I accept that no provider is without any risk at all, on the basis that I accept no system is completely foolproof. But we are dealing with very different companies in those respects, rather than ones where we have concern about the worldview of the country they are headquartered in. And yet we do need more competition. We do need more diversity of providers. And we would need that, by the way, even if there were no security considerations whatsoever. We would need it because competition improves quality and choice and price. So I very much support the investment that the government is putting into that, the £250 million. And I represent a rural constituency, so I entirely know the importance of, or largely rural constituency, so I entirely understand the importance of connectivity generally, but that 5G will have for the country as a whole and for my constituency, 170 billion to GDP in the next decade, as is suggested. I know that these decisions being made through this bill will delay the rollout and increase the cost. And yet they are entirely the right decisions to take because they're about our national security. In July 2019, the government's own supply chain review found that the successive policy decisions had meant that we may have achieved good commercial outcomes, but we had poor cybersecurity. So it's entirely right that the government now reverses that order of priorities, even if it's going to cost more, even if it's going to take more time. And I wholly support their aspiration to have one of the toughest security regimes in the world.